been a part of a working group of people to help produce this event, a project that has taken about 3 years of pretty amazing work. So we appreciate all of you folks for joining online and in person on a very early Sunday morning. Oh, sorry. Oh, my God. That even says what day it is. Saturday morning. Like, what day is it? But honestly, we're just so grateful to see how much aloha the ʻA has cultivated and continues to grow. But with that, I wanted to just mention that, the ʻA was on view in a recent exhibition at Bishop Museum called Lanakila, Expressions of Sovereignty in Early Territorial Hawaiʻi. It had a long 9-month run, and we're so grateful to put it back in the water. But one of the things that, as the curator of the show, I really wanted to introduce to people was that the storytelling that we're able to do around the ʻA at Bishop Museum is just one form of storytelling. We've been so blessed to be shared stories about the ʻA with the gentlemen that are seated to the left of me. So I'm going to read their bios, and then we're just going to talk story because we don't want to make anyone nervous about the fact that there's an audience. But it's really just a way to continue to share the story of this really historic canoe. So first I'm going to introduce Tay Perry, who's kind of centered 2 in for me. Tay Perry is a lifelong canoe paddler, coach, and master koa canoe carver and restorer from Kailua, Oahu. He was one of the founding members of Lanakila Canoe Club and has also paddled for Outrigger Canoe Club. At age 88, he still paddles weekly with the fossils. Over the past 50 years, he has built 5 canoes from scratch and has fully restored 16, as well as repairs to many more, including the ʻA. He was the advisor to the original board of directors of the Polynesian Voyaging Society to aid in designing hokule'a. So let's welcome Tay Perry, everyone. Immediately left of me is Jay Dowsett. Jay Dowsett is a lifelong canoe builder from Kailua, Oahu. He learned fiberglass and construction skills from Wright Bowman Jr. He continues to share his love and talents in canoe building and restoration through his business, Kailua Canoe, whose designs are inspired by many of the Dowsett's family canoe collection. Jay Dowsett also may or may not have also famously took the ʻA surfing at the Mokes. Let's welcome Jay Dowsett and his son, Michael. And last but not least, we have Alan Dowsett. Alan Dowsett is a lifelong paddler and vintage canoe enthusiast. He paddled for Lanakila and Outrigger Canoe Clubs. Alan has also helped to restore Outrigger's Kāmo'i and led the restoration of the ʻA between 1900 and 2000. And he has also worked on a number of other historic Hawaiian watercrafts. So let's also welcome Alan. So I have a few questions that I'm going to popcorn amongst this group of 4, and we're going to just let the stories run forth, and we'll take some questions from the audience as well. But the first question I have is for Tay. What is the history of the ʻA and its significance to Lanakila Canoe Club?
Well, the significance of it is that it was the first canoe that ever commissioned to be built specifically for racing against other canoes. And Prince Kūhiō commissioned Henry Weeks to build it, which was built in 1902. So that canoe out there is 127 years old. So it is, but as such, it's the oldest racing canoe in Hawaii. Nobody's currently racing it, but it could race. It's a little heavier than most of the other boats, but I personally have a strong bond with that canoe because it's one of the most perfect Hawaiian canoes that I've been associated with. So anyway, I would like to comment on the Dowsetts. Without the Dowsett family, the canoe would not exist today. Their grandfather back in 1952 or 53 got the canoe, which was in a total state of ruin. There were cracks the whole length of it. The gunnels were all broken and termite eaten, and the hull was just literally falling apart. And my father, George Perry, was commissioned by Herb Dowsett, and together they put together the what you see now, the rebirth of it. And Bishop, I think during the time, the Dowsetts are smarter on this than I am, but I think at the time the canoe was the property of Bishop Museum because it was donated to them. And the Dowsets were allowed free hand to restore it, which they did, and they continue to do work on it and restore it up to the present time. And I just underwent a minor upgrade in terms of making the canoe wide enough so that some people could fit in the seats, and to clear up some termite damage and other cracks that are occurring. But to me, it's amazing that the canoe exists today, and it looks as good as it does today. And incidentally, it was the first koa canoe I ever did work on. I as a 13-year-old kid, was able to do little more than do sanding at the instruction of my father and his other staff. But anyway, that was the rebirth of the ʻaʻa from oblivion. And Alan has a lot of the pictures and stuff of the 1953 restoration. But anyway, I'd like to see if Alan will tell me what he thinks about the current status and his association with the ʻaʻa.
Thanks, Dave. Jay, you want to do this?
Or Jay's good too.
Well, I think the main thing that Tay was asked the question: what's the significance of the canoe with Lanakila Canoe Club? This canoe and the Manukeo were the two canoes that created Lanakila Canoe Club. And Manukeo doesn't exist anymore. The ʻaʻa is the sole survivor of Lanakila Canoe Club, and it's just pretty cool to know that we, as kids growing up, had that canoe in our front yard. I thought it was a plaything. My dad didn't tell me until 1968 that it was the king's boat. So what she said, I may or may not have taken it out and surfed at Mokulua. I'm going to deny anything about that. But I'm just really stoked to look at all of you guys and gals that have come here, because we thought we had done something epic about 10. When did we do the first one, Alan? 10 years ago?
Oh, in
94?
1994, we launched the ʻaʻa after a major rebuild. And we had some legendary people here, but not like this, not this kind of a group. And we thought that was going to be the only celebration. And then when the Bishop Museum and Taylor Chang approached us and said, we want to do this, we went, wow. So really, the thanks from all of us sitting up here, embarrassed as hell, is thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. So the next question I have is for Alan. And we're going to kind of go through our memory bank here. Alan, what was your earliest memory of the ʻaʻa? We heard from Jay that he may or may not have surfed the ʻaʻa, but do you have an early memory of riding in it or working on the ʻaʻa as well?
My earliest memory is when we were kids, and going back to Tay, answer questions there too, but our grandfather had a home in Lanakila, and that was the first clubhouse for Lanakila Canoe Club, and Tay was the very first president of Lanakila Canoe Club at 10 years old, right?
That was 13.
Oh, 13. I'm off. Excuse me. But that's where the club started, and my memory back then, as I'm younger than Jay, his memory goes a bit deeper, but
Much younger.
Our grandfather had a bunch of canoes, and it was kind of always like going into Ookie Spooky Land with all these canoes, and don't touch that one, and that one was the ʻaʻa. We could touch the other ones, but we couldn't touch that one. But I think Jay touched that one. But at any rate, it was my first memory was down in his canoe shed, all these canoes, and it was just unbelievable. And as kids growing up, we didn't know what we really had, but we lived in Lanakila. We lived on the beach when Lanakila was not what it is today. And we had 10, 12 boats in the front yard, of which several were canoes. It's kind of like, what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to surf, or we're going to sail, or we're going to paddle, but there was always something to take out. And we had koa canoes sitting on the front yard like it was no big deal. Well, they're a big deal. And so all those canoes that we had back then still live today. None of them got destroyed, even though we did our chance. So that's my earliest memory.
No, I think what's really beautiful is, as you folks are talking about these koa canoes, your memory is so deep, and you remember all of them, as they were in the water, and as paddling was becoming the massive sport it is today. So I kind of want to ask for Alan, Jane, and Tay, when you folks had the awe in the water, and as you folks were growing up with Lanakila Canoe Club, was it fast in your folks' opinion? Like, what are some thoughts in comparison to the other koa canoes that were being born during that time period? And yeah, go ahead.
For me, I can't answer for the two of them. But for me, we didn't have enough knowledge about other koa boats. We didn't know the significance. To all of us, to my brother and myself, and to the rest of the family members, all of the koa canoes that we had were just our grandfather's koa canoes. It wasn't until 1968 that I found out that this belonged to the king. So we were playing with something that we probably shouldn't have been playing with, but then that's, I can deny that as much as possible. I think one of the funniest things, I was hoping Alan would mention it, is, and I hope I'm not going off script here, but
go ahead.
Our father would come over to us as kids and say, okay, we're going down to Pappy's house. We call our grandfather Pappy. We go down to Pappy's house. And after doing this several times, I started to ask my dad questions after he said that. And I said, are we walking down on the beach, or are we driving down on the road? And he goes, why? And I said, well, if we're driving down on the road, that means we're working on canoes. If we're walking down on the beach, it means we get to go surfing, sand sliding, fishing, doing whatever. And he looked at me, he goes, you're getting smart, boy. So I guess I passed the test.
Can you confirm, Alan? Yeah, do you guys want to add anything else, too, about some of the...
I can mention along those lines that when I was 12, 13 years old, my father's hobby was building stone walls. And I was the person that had to go get the rocks, mix the cement, and clean the mixing wheelbarrows. And I was so happy when he got together with Dowsett and started coaching canoe paddling, and then he got interested in canoe repair at that point. And he said, "Oh, we don't have to do stone walls anymore. We're going to go down and work on the canoes." And I was so happy, and paddle, and so ever since that time, my whole life has revolved around canoes, and now I've kind of evolved into I really like Hawaiian koa canoes, to be specific. And there's a lot of Polynesian canoes, there's fiberglass canoes, carbon fiber canoes, and they're all wonderful things, and I love to paddle them. But I love to be involved with koa canoes, and I don't believe in changing what the old people of Hawaii had and the way they made their canoes. They shaped their manus, the rockers, the depths, and all of the... I work on a lot of regular surfing canoes or fishing canoes as well, and I really love that work. It really makes me feel complete. And the ʻaʻa was the very first koa canoe that I actually worked on, even though I was not a very talented woodworker at the time. I was good at sanding, and that's probably what I mostly did in those days, sanding and doing errands with regard to the repair, like cutting lumber and stuff like that. But that's how I've involved my whole life with canoe, and I love paddling too. I've paddled all my life, and I will continue to paddle as long as I can. Yeah. So anyway, that's my association with back to my original work on canoes was done at his grandfather's. They had kind of like a canoe house. It was just actually the lower level of a split level place, and
the longhouse.
It was a really. I remember the property really well, and by the time they had the canoe club, they had Herb had gotten something done with some sandbags, and he built about 50 or 100 feet on the beach out to sea. It all went away later, but
built his own jetties.
Yeah, he built his own jetties and stuff. Anyway, that was our first Lanakila Canoe Club.
Alan, did you want to add anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I maybe kind of answer, but I'm going to go roundabout here, I guess. The family's involvement began in the early 50s after the ʻaʻa had been in storage at Bishop Museum for, I don't know exactly how long, approximately 25 years in storage. And we have pictures of this. The canoe was stored in a building that's no longer at Bishop Museum, but number 1 and 2 seat were sticking outside the building because the building wasn't big enough. The canoe was actually out. And on the day it was removed, well, for several years, our grandfather approached Bishop Museum and said, "Hey, I can restore that canoe. It's collecting water up there. It's rotting away." And he knew the significance of it, but I'm not sure how Bishop Museum didn't have anywhere else to put it. So they wanted a canoe that was smaller, they could display. So they did an exchange of the ʻaʻa for what's called the Dowsett canoe. It's a 21-foot canoe. And that was the exchange that happened in 1951. And the canoe was then exchanged. And there's a picture I was showing others today of them taking it out of that second level building on pallets and a flatbed truck. And you're like, oh my gosh. And they went over to Lanakila and they restored it. And the exchange was Bishop Museum has always owned the canoe. It still owns the canoe. But the family was the custodian and had been the custodian for 74 years. And it kind of, and that just, I don't say ended, that has evolved to where we're no longer the custodians because now all of you are the custodians. Bishop Museum, everybody here is a custodian. And it's rather moving that it's become that. And so it started Lanakila Canoe Club. I'm sorry, I'm going to be long-winded.
No, keep talking.
It helped start Lanakila Canoe Club. Lanakila Canoe Club was nothing. Obviously, today we know Lanakila Canoe Club is something. Yeah. But it was nothing back then. And our grandfather never, ever took any front page on anything. He lived by an old saying, fools' faces and fools' names and fools' faces end up in public places. He never made the papers. He never made nothing. He was a very humble man, I guess is the best way to put it. And never took credit for what he did. I don't think he knew what he was doing, but boy, thank gosh he did, because here we are. So our job as custodians, Jay, Tay, Michael, myself, and many, many others, Clarence Owl, who helped restore it, a number of people, but our job, was to keep the ʻaʻa alive. And because it wasn't alive, it was gone. And so it started the club, and I'll tell a different story on that one in a second, but basically our job was to keep the ʻaʻa alive. And today, it's pretty alive. And it's wonderful, and it's very rewarding to me, because I spent a lot of time doing a lot of this, keep it going. But the hard work's right here, and we're just fortunate that it's alive. When the canoe was launched in 1954 at our grandparents' house, when Lanakila was absolutely, no one knew where Lanakila was, and the pictures indicate that it was pretty remote. But there were a few people there that day that I want to recognize, and one of those people that was there that day was Tay. But also there that day was in a boat with us today with Barney McKay. Barney McKay was one of the original paddlers, original members of the club, and he's here today.
Hey, Barney.
Barney. Well, one of the things that we needed to do or I think my grandfather did behind the scenes was Lanakila Canoe Club needed to grow. And it was having really tough growing pains because Lanakila wasn't very big back in the 50s. It was nothing. And they had a hard time just even putting one or two crews together. So for years, and Jay remembers this, that we had a dual meet at Lanakila with Outrigger Canoe Club. And it was a way to teach Lanakila paddlers how to race by racing against Outrigger, which was very dominant back in those days. And this is kind of funny. It was such a long drive for Outrigger to come over, so they'd come over and camp out at our house the night before so that they could race the next day. So we had a full camp out of Outrigger members in our backyard and living room, and it was a wonderful 5 or 6 years that we did this every year. It was a dual meet, and that's really what got Lanakila off the floor to know how to compete, and they competed right in front of the house.
And they provided the lunch.
And Outrigger had to provide the lunch, right? Lanakila provided the venue, Outrigger provided the lunch. That was the deal. And it was just a great way. And so there's a lot here to be said about what, first, yes, Prince Kūhiō, awesome, he is proud. I've always, people ask, well, how do you describe the ʻŌiwi? And my best way to describe it is the ʻŌiwi is the Kitty Hawk of six-man canoe racing. This is it. This is a six-man canoe that the world races, and it all started right with this boat. It's just too much to almost imagine that it is so big, and it started with Prince Kūhiō's vision that they were racing 5-man fishing canoes. And the guy was smart and go, you know what? 1 more horsepower, we're going to win. Let's build a 6-man canoe. And I don't know that for a fact, but I'm guessing if I'm going to win, I'm going to make it for 6 people, and we're going to win. And they did. And they were racing. Back then, it was all fishing canoes converted to 5 and 6-man canoes. This is the first 6-man racing canoe, and it's just evolved into a world sport. I've been a proponent for 20 years to make it an exhibition sport. The Olympics has fallen upon deaf ears, but maybe you guys can help make that happen, because it should be an exhibition sport in the next America Olympics, hosted Olympics, because it's...
When that day comes, I want to listen to the announcers try to say the Hawaiian names.
Yeah, but I've been trying to push for that along with others. But at any rate, sorry for dissertation.
No, amazing.
Since we're still at one really quick thing, we've gone here, we've gone there, we've gone that, and we're missing the one guy on the very left. That's my son, Mike. The reason I wanted to interject him here now is Alan brought up, Tay brought up that who were the first people to work on it. Well, in actuality, it was kind of almost like a fun curse, because my grandfather started it, and then it came over to us kids. It skipped my dad, and then from us kids, it went to our kids. And Michael was the newest member of the family to work on it, the second to the last time that it got refurbished. So he's got extensive work in this thing, and it's kind of cool. Had I been his age and known about the canoe and done with that, what he'd done, I would have gone, that's a pretty epic little thing. Most of the kids today, and I'm not saying this because my son's sitting up here, but most of the kids, and most of you will agree with me, have this in their hand. They're looking at instant gratification. To go out and say you got to work on a canoe and it's going to take you 6 months to get this canoe finished, and even that's considered fast, that doesn't happen. He does.
Michael, do you want to add anything about that, about your time working with the canoe as a young person?
I'll say something about Michael as well. My favorite canoe racing steering paddle is made by Michael. He makes a hell of a good paddle up to current standards.
Appreciate the support.
If you need a steering paddle, call him up.
Is this a Google ad?
Not yet.
Yeah, Michael, if you want to talk about some of your experiences working with the ʻAtu as a young person.
I can't say for sure, but I remember actually knowing that it was the ʻA for the first time because there had been so many canoes at the shop. I don't know if you've ever been down there, but just all the canoes were like on the wall, on the back, on racks. And when I was younger, they're canoes, like, I know they're important, but I don't really understand the significance of them. And it's like, oh, cool, what's that canoe? Oh, I don't know. Well, then come to work one day, indentured servitude, and then my dad has the forklift, and he's with Tay, and we're like, oh, we're taking that canoe off right now. And it'll be, I don't know, it was at least one of the numerous 100-year-old plus canoes that we have. I'm like, oh, this is the significance of this one, this is the builder, and this is what's gone. I'm like, what? Like, it's just casually sitting on rusted racks on the back. Like, yeah, we're gonna make it good now. But the first time I actually for sure can say I remember that it's the ʻA was probably back in 2013, 14-ish. From what I remember, it was now that I know what it is, it was sitting there longer. But it was kind of overshadowed by other projects that were going on. Like Hawaii Loa was being worked on for a super long time, so we were kind of bouncing around between working on our fiberglass boats, repairs for the clubs, koa and fiberglass, and then Hawaii Loa. We had a lot going on, but there was always this boat that I remember it always irritated me because it was always sticking out further, and I had to walk around that one boat under this gray drab canvas. And it was a couple years later where I finally was like, "Hey, Dad, what boat is that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's the ʻA." I was like, "Oh, okay." I don't know much. And then around that time, I believe, I don't know the name of the boat, but it was a boat from Brooklyn. We've been calling it the Brooklyn canoe. It was, actually, I think you can add better about that one. I don't know the history on it, about the Brooklyn canoe when it came in. Because the whole point was, I was like, what is this boat? Because my dad said, that one is older. And that's from Brooklyn, from Russian traders, and it came back. And now you have the second and fourth oldest existing Hawaiian canoes sitting right next to each other. And I was like, well, okay, this just got really serious. So, but then fast forward to a couple of years later, it was actually our last year working at the shop over here. And I didn't realize at the time, but after it was done, I was like, whoa, this was like the actual final test. I'd never really been allowed to work on the super important boats. I kind of was able to do like the sanding job there, but like patches or anything like that were totally off limits because that's the one and only in existence. If you mess it up, you really mess it up. So I wasn't allowed to touch that until it was the ʻA. My dad goes, yeah, here you go. Here's what we got to change. We got to open up the gunnels. We got to replace the seats, X, Y, and Z, and you just sand the whole thing and do this. And he left me on my own, and that was kind of a trip. Afterwards, I realized, whoa, that was like my final exam, that I actually was able to do everything on my own. And that was I believe that was actually the last koa boat we worked on, was that one. So that was back in like 2017, so that was kind of a trip.
Amazing. Thank you. That was, what I appreciate about all of this is that you guys are hearing, these amazing stories of how in different phases, these four gentlemen have helped the ʻA at really amazing, poignant times of need. And I'm so glad to call them collaborators and Ohana Bishop Museum, because they pick up our calls when we answer when we were trying to do big events like this, or that we are trying to get into the ʻA, and they're very, very ma'a to this work, and we're so grateful. We're kind of wrapping this up, but I wanted to ask one last question to all of you folks, because as you probably can imagine, they have a lot of experience on other historic canoes. And so I want to ask all of them, and you guys can interpret this question how you may. What has been your favorite historic canoe to work on, and why?
Before anybody else jumps in here, I want to jump in.
Sure, go ahead.
Tay Perry and I, several years ago, were in Kauai for the state races. And we were walking down the beach. I don't even know why we were walking down the beach. We were walking down the beach, and all the koa canoes are lined up on the beach. 60-plus canoes. As we're walking by the canoes, Tay's going, I fixed that one. I worked on that one. I lengthened that one. Went down almost every one of the canoes. He always had a hand in. So for me, that is very, very historic to be able to have somebody talk about all these different canoes and had a hand in all of them. But what was also cool was as we were walking down, I also was able to go, yep, and I worked on that one, and I worked on that one. So that was good.
So who wants to answer the question of any particular favorites that stick out? You don't have to say the You don't have to be biased.
I can mention that there's 2 pronunciations for that canoe. One is and the other is The Dowsetts favor the I use the but I think it could be just the way people said it at the time. And there is a white bird, a seabird, that is called the and some of the definitions of are more to do with paddling or with racing or that kind of a thing. I don't have my reference in front of me right now, but either name will fit. And just use the one you like.
Obviously, I really enjoy working on the but more importantly, just being the custodian of it was the most important part.
Yes.
Just keeping it alive. And that's really, that was the work. But as far as canoes to work on, like Tay, I've worked on several canoes, nowhere near what Tay's worked on, but every canoe has a different soul, different heart, and I always kind of worked on the canoe to find the heart. Everybody has their own relationship, but my relationship with the I know where that heart is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you. You got to go find it yourself.
Yeah.
But there's a heart there, and that's kind of what, for me, working on canoes is finding the heart of the canoe. And they're in different spots in every canoe. And when you're working on it, and Tay probably going to say the same thing, you kind of get to a spot and going, ooh, this is a good spot.
Yeah.
And this is a good spot you can hang out for a little while and do a little more work. But every canoe has a heart. The obviously has a real big heart. It's not a very big spot. It's a big heart. And so I like them all. And that to me is kind of like, that's the, is finding that. And so they're all good. They're all my favorites.
Go ahead, Michael. Any favorites?
It's the surprise. But yeah, for me that one it was obviously because it was the last canoe we worked on together, and it was my final test, so to speak. But I remember a cool moment where of significance. Well, I'll back up. What I like about working on all these canoes is, like, each canoe, you can go around and be like, hey, I've worked on that part. I changed the rock around this boat. Oh, I did that patch. Like, you can go and say, like, oh, I did those things, and this is really cool. So each boat has a significant moment where, like, oh, I remember I learned this. I messed this part up. Great memory. Ha, ha, ha. I fixed it. So each boat has some sort of memory in it like that. But for me, the cool part about the was when I was tasked with sanding down the inside, and my dad's like, yeah, just go ahead, sand on the inside because we gotta respray it. And I looked at it and I'm like, there's brass staples in a canoe all over the place. How do I do this? He goes, figure it out, have fun. So that was the moment where I was like, okay, how do I actually go and do this? This is completely out of the realm of anything I've ever tried before. And then I asked him the question, who put this in here? He's like, oh, this has been in here since like the 50s. That's what his grandfather put in. So the tie-in was like, oh wow, I'm actually dealing with something that has been in here that long. I've always heard these stories about Lanikai, and I've longed for, like, if I could just spend one day in the life of these guys back in Lanikai, just to like live that experience, that would be like Lanikai actually having a beach. I thought that'd be pretty cool. So seeing those staples and the stringers, the strips of wood inside the boat was a really cool tie. Where I was like, wow, I'm actually working on something that probably has not even touched actual air since the 1950s, which I thought was really cool. So, yeah, surprise, the
That's a great answer, though. Yeah. Go ahead, Tay.
Okay. Ellen brought up the subject that some of you may have walked around looking at the interior of the and noticed that it has sort of spiraling
radial strips,
which they're actually Philippine mahogany, and they're about 1/8 there's two layers of 1/8 that went the whole length of the interior of the canoe, because at the initial restoration, the canoe wouldn't even sit up straight by itself. It was all rotten and weak, and it needed strengthening. And so Mr. Dowsett and my father, who was in charge of the restoration work, decided to beef up the inside of the canoe to make it strong so it could handle the seas and not break up out there. And it did add a lot of weight to the boat, but it did enable it to be still here. So otherwise that wouldn't have held up for very long because of the age and the mishandling of the canoe. Back in the old days, they didn't worry too much about keeping a canoe forever like we do today, because they knew they could go get another log and make another one, and it would last for a few years. So they didn't worry about that much. But if any of you notice that's unique. There is no other canoe that I know of that has been done that way. And maybe if I was doing it again, I wouldn't do it that way, but because we have newer ways of doing things that work better. But as far as that thing, I just, in case you wondered what is that funny looking stuff on the inside? It's resorcinol glue, which is no longer used. We now use epoxies, and the coloration is just the catalyst part of the makes the glue get hard. So that's what that's all about.
Lastly, just something to think about and consider. So the canoe was basically commissioned 1900. Think of how old that tree had to be. A tree that big, that straight, had to be a big tree. And I'm not an arborist, but that had to be a 100-year-old tree.
Yeah.
Not better than that.
Or better than
that.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big... So this is an old Hawaii log, and it's just, oh man, go touch it. And that's the best thing about these canoes. Yes, paddling it, but go touch it, because it's just got so much power. So, I'm Paul.
Thank you, folks. Let's give it a round of applause for our panelists. We have about time for maybe one or two questions from the audience. If anybody has any questions, I'll walk around with the mic. I have to say, Alan came very far to be here with us. So if you have a question, I'd ask it now. Any questions?
Yeah, you can catch me tomorrow.
Oh yeah, Tay will talk the story with you. All right, no questions. Well, feel free to grab them, and also too, there may be some available slots to ride in the awe. Check out the Friends of Hawaii Loa and Hokulea tent, the blue tent. Feel free to go check out and find out more information there. But let's give a round of applause to the Dowsetts and the Perrys. And mahalo to them for believing in us and making it happen with us. We're going to switch over and prepare for our 9:30 panel, which will include kalai waʻa. So please stay put, grab a snack, and then come back. Thank you. Aloha.
Tragic moments
true. Totally.
Oh, okay. Action going on. You combine the two panels. Yeah. So basically, I gotta watch.
Just go post the recordings and get the mics inside the recorder.
Okay.
Yeah.
We gotta stagger up one by the stage. Yeah,
See the
you can go, Bobby. You good on this side? Also, yeah. Double armor.
Aloha. Thank you all for joining us here today and for staying for our second panel session. My name is Healoha Johnston. I'm the Director of Cultural Resources and the Curator for Hawaiian Pacific Arts and Culture at Bishop Museum. And it is my honor to be moderator for a panel with canoe carvers here today, where we're going to learn from each of them about their different approaches to carving and their unique stories and experiences of really, perpetuating an art form that makes a sport possible. And it's really inspiring to hear the way that they've navigated across canoes, oceans, collections, different countries to help care for Hawaiian canoes that exist all over the world, and the way that they work with children in order to do so. I want to start by introducing Uncle Bobby Puakea. He is at the far end, sporting the shades. Uncle Bobby is a lifelong, that far end, second in, lifelong waterman from Hilo, Hawaii. Uncle Bobby learned about canoe care and preservation from his father, Bobby Puakea Sr., who helped to build many of the koa canoes that are still present today. Bobby, who has dedicated his life to canoe education, was honored in 2003 by the City and County of Honolulu for his work in preserving the art of Hawaiian canoe building. Thank you for joining us here today. We also have Doug Bumatai, who is a canoe carver from Hilo, Hawaii. He learned from his father, Ray Bumatai, who learned canoe carving in Kalapana. Doug has helped restore a number of different koa canoes and has also built a number of canoes from scratch using introduced woods, helping to keep the art alive while changing narratives around invasive species. His brother, Alika Bumatai, is a canoe carver and restorer from Panaewa, Hawaii. He has made and worked on canoes around the world, canoes that are in Japan, Aotearoa, and Washington, D.C., and Europe, as I've just recently learned. In his work, Alika emphasizes that canoes are family members and should be prioritized in their care. As a result, he invites as many people to participate in the canoes he helps restore and create. Casey Jackson is a caretaker at Ho'oulu'aina, a 100-acre nature preserve nestled in the back of Kalihi Valley. Ho'oulu'aina builds community connections around food, knowledge, spirituality, and health. Casey has carved a number of canoes from wood harvested from the organization's property. Ryan Oliveras, sitting next to me, is a woodworker and carver from Waipahu, Oahu. He has been teaching woodworking for 30 years. Since 2005, he has taught woodworking at Olomana School, where he has been leading the restoration of the school's canoe. He is also a proud docent at Bishop Museum and the only recognized haumana of master canoe carver Tay Perry. So this is how we got to know him, working on the awe that we are celebrating here today. I want to start the panel with a question for Uncle Bobby. I've been told, Uncle Bobby, that you can see the canoe in the tree. Can you share with us how you go from carving a tree into a canoe?
Well, actually,
I started off my life as an entertainer. I played music, of which I was when I was in Kamehameha, because I couldn't get into the service. I was rated 4F because of my lungs. I had a lung problem, which eventually led into the operation of my lungs, of which I'm just thankful that I'm still here today, because I was informed that I might not live past 45. But I'm 85 now. Oh, well, I'm still here. But, you know, a lot of it boils down to my family and some very good friends. And it's like I said, I'm from the Big Island, Keaukaha. It's an area of Hawaiian homes. But because of my medical condition, the only place that I could get all my medical care was here in Oahu. So my wife and I moved from Hawaii to Oahu. We now live in Kaneohe. Beautiful place. My home now. But anyway, all I can say about my health is I'm pretty good. You take care of yourselves too out there. We only live one time.
Can you tell them about your dad and what he shared with you?
I remember growing up, my dad used to use this. I looked at it, it's just a piece of rock that was somehow carved to make it into an axe. I don't have pictures, but there are pictures of him standing on a log with this thing, this and others, swinging it between his legs. All like this. These tools were so sharp that he didn't do this. It was all in the front, right around here. And he just let it drop. And you will see a chips go flying behind. And that's what I used to hear. And then, you know, when he got to the finished product, he still stood on the canoe, on the boat, on the running side. And don't tell me how, but he wasn't a very light person either. He weighed, I think, about 200 plus pounds. Oh, he loved to, you know that right arm exercise? Guess what arm exercise that is? Down the hatch. But, you know, he was a great dad, and I'm very fortunate that he lived as long as he did. And you know what I was told? Although his birth certificate was born in 1904, he was born actually 10 years earlier. So that made him over 100 years old when he passed. But, you know, I'm just saying that because I hope I live till then. I'm 85 right now. Oh, God, I got a lot more to go. Anyway, this is one of the tools. The blade is, as you can see, flat. So it was used to carve the walls on the inside, the outside. But don't tell me how he did it, but he did it. So this is one of the tools. This is another tool that was, before the head comes off. You know, so what I did? Anyway, all of the tools that my dad used, I do have some pictures, not with me, but of him standing on a canoe, on a log, and swinging this not like this, all in the front of him. Let the weight just go, and you can hear that sound. Just like the chicken, you know. But it was amazing. I wish that time we had a camera that I could have taken movies of him. But it was amazing. It was an amazing man. He worked for the city county. He was a paniola. In other words, he rounded up cattle on the Big Island, and that's where he's from. Drive them down from Mauna Kea, all the way down to the ship that came to pick up cattle down in the harbor. So, I'm talking so fast I'm forgetting all the places that I'm supposed to know. So, anyway.
Did you want to talk any more about how you see the canoe in the tree when you try to carve it?
Oh, yeah. This one is the most important one of all. It took me almost, I probably was in the 80s, that I was able to go to the forest and see my first koa log. I had friends with me, and all I said was, I need 5 of you. Link your arms together around the base. There was 5 people holding their hands around the base. And you know what came out of that log? A canoe from the center. All the pieces on the side, every piece was cut, and there were people that would stop by and would say, "Uncle, can I have that?" Yeah, well, pretty soon I had people coming and just asking, today all of that pieces of koa, a lot of money. Really, koa is expensive today.
Which canoe was that was in that tree?
The canoe, today it's called hoʻola. It used to be known as Hilo Boy. And people would ask me, why did you rename it hoʻola? Well, any of you know Hawaiian? You know what hoʻola means in English? Well, it depends how you look at it. Hoʻola means, ola is life. Ho is new. So, hoʻola in English means new life, or reborn, or born again. But it's all in that matter of that big name, hoʻola. And my dad asked, why? I said, because it's a new beginning. A canoe has come from Hilo Boy, a 38-footer, to a 45-footer today. A canoe itself today is not 45. It's 44.6. When you see a canoe, when you see the models like this, it's 45 feet from here to here. Not the canoe itself. You see a model up like this, then you have a canoe that's end to end, 45 feet. So that's why, folks, when you see a canoe with the models like this, the canoe itself is not 45 feet.
So you took Hilo Boy to hoʻola? You made Hilo Boy into hoʻola?
Yeah, and the canoe known as Hilo Boy became what is known today as hoʻola. Again, people ask me, why did you name him her? Remember now, a canoe is a her, not a him. Why? Anybody know? Why is a canoe called her? But it could be him. That's a good question. I don't know. But it's called hoʻola. I mean, a canoe is called her.
Thank you, Uncle Bobby.
Hey.
Doug, may I ask you to share how you got started carving?
So I got started when I was 3 years old. My dad got his first koa log from Kona, brought it to Panaeva in Hilo, and he sat there for a while looking at the log, trying to see what everybody says. Can you see the canoe in the log? So he spent some time looking at the log, looking for the canoe, right? So when Dad finally saw the canoe, he started building the canoe. So I was 3 years old at the time, his little helper, and more than likely probably in his way most of the time. But it got to the point where I would be the one passing him his tools, sweeping away the sawdust, and reminding him, Dad, we have to go home because Mom's going to get mad. So, I was with Dad the whole time, doing his very first canoe that he built, which was named the Kūhiō Kalanianaʻole, named after my brother. My mom was Hawaii with him when he was finishing up this canoe. And right before the blessing, he was born. And the canoe was named after my brother, his middle name, Kūhiō Kalanianaʻole. So that was the start of it. And growing up with my dad building canoes, that's all I knew, right? I didn't know that other people didn't build canoes. I thought everybody was doing this, right? So you kind of take it for granted. And as I got older, I was probably in high school when it finally hit that I got to get this stuff down. I got to learn this stuff because nobody's doing this stuff anymore. Very few people. So as we started doing more canoe projects, repairs, maintenance, new canoes being built, I've helped him with almost all of his canoe projects, except for a couple that he did away. And it was probably till I was in my 30s finally, when maybe I was in my 40s actually, before my brother finally showed an interest. Thank goodness, because I was feeling all the pressure that I had to be the one to carry on and do all of this stuff, right? And then when my brother finally came onto the scene and taking interest, I was like, whoo, what a relief. It's not all stuck on me anymore, So that's kind of how it all started in a nutshell.
Thank you. Alika, do you want to tell us a little bit about Queen Kapiolani's canoe and your experience caring for those or visiting those canoes?
Yeah, I call them but so we're called kalaiwa, canoe carvers. We're not canoe builders. Builders, you put materials together. Kalai, we carve, we give the tree life. Again, so I don't know. For me, we call kalaiwa, kalai's carve. We canoe carvers. We're not canoe builders.
Thank you.
So, sorry.
Oh no.
For me, that's important. People know the difference.
Yes.
So, like my brother said, so like my dad, I was exposed to canoes my whole life, and when the canoe called, that's when I got involved. Because we don't choose that; they choose us. So I was fortunate. We got invited to the Smithsonian to see Queen Kapiolani's canoe that was donated in 1886. It was said to be 100 years old already. You go there. So we walk in. I follow my dad. He tells me something wrong. So this guy Joshua Bell from the Smithsonian comes up. He's like, "What's wrong, Ray?" He said, "Where's the paddle?" So Dad always told us the canoe always got one paddle because down Kalapana the spirits wander, and if no one paddle, the spirit can make home. So I get on the phone. I call you,
Yeah.
And then he feds us one called paddle head hanging on the wall. So Hoʻi always stays with the canoe. So the canoe knows people still there. But that canoe is, I don't know, our ancestors were so far behind. Just everything's lashed, ko'i, no modern tools. But Queen Kapiolani donated in 1886 on her way to Queen's Jubilee in England, where she donated a second canoe to Queen Victoria. It was a queen between sovereign nations, between monarchs. And and I got to meet, and we lashed both those canoes probably in over 100 years never been last. So we put them back together. But those canoes get one spirit. And those canoes is happy because they're still serving their purpose. You know, it was a gift from a queen to a queen. So that canoe is still serving lonely, but still happy. Because some canoes, hard.
Thank you. Casey, can you tell us about the materials that you use when carving a canoe?
So we come from the back of this valley, Kalihi. And if anybody's driven over the Like, you can see all the albizia. And so most of the wood that we use is kind of like one of the sayings that we use is you can only use what get. And so what get in the back of Kalihi is planting albizia. It was one of the first kind of strongholds of albizia on this island, and so they're really large and make really beautiful canoes. And so most of the work we do is mostly just with albizia because we're really interested in using albizia to help restore our koa forests again. And so by removing those, we give our koa, greater hope for the next generation. And it's also really good practice and makes beautiful canoes, which I think with Alika and Doug also use albizia because it's available. And so most of the work that we do is with albizia and with a program that we call Mayuka Ku'uwa'a. And so we start kids off 5 years old learning how to swing ko'i, learning how to feed themselves, learning how to take care of themselves, as well as the forest. So really interested in reconnecting our community back to the forest and what makes a healthy forest in Hawaii. And I think seeing more albizia canoes on the shoreline means that our forests are in better health. And really for the water is why we're doing this. And I also want to reiterate what Alika said about the kahea. That really, once you answer that call of the canoe, it's a lifelong. They're going to keep calling. So once you answer that call, and I really learned that from some of those guys back there, some of the old timers, John Keolanui, getting to spend time with Nakalaiwa'a on the Big Island and Mauloa, and Papa Mau always talked about albizia as a really good wood for canoe, and so kind of with that we've been taking that and just going with it, and hopefully creating a whole generation of more and more canoe carvers and starting them young, like Doug. That's our hope.
Thank you. Ryan, can you share more about what you've been training the next generation? Can you tell us more about why you do that and where you see the direction of canoe carving and paddlers going?
Well, like I was saying, we way behind. The youth I work with is all incarcerated youth. So that's how I got involved with Uncle Billy. And we try and instill, values working around the canoe. So one of the canoes, no swearing. And basically the kids I get is, they're incarcerated, not for jaywalking. You know what I mean? And to get them to, act in a certain way is one thing. But when we get them around the canoe and we start doing work on the canoe, you can see the change. And I cannot say much, but I think we're batting maybe close to 50-50 right now. Well, I think we get 2 right now in the union. They actually turned their life around. And, that's good. One going to be journeyman pretty soon. He's like 80% journeyman iron worker. The other one's a carpenter, journeyman carpenter right now. And then it really helps with the behavior because they got to earn that to work in order to work with me and Uncle Billy and all that. And then the other ones is, sad to say, just one facing life right now, the other one doing 20, and I think the whole bunch, 50-50 I line. It's more like 30% success rate, but we're going to get there, but yeah, but using a canoe as the vessel there is hopefully, like, I remember saying one time, like, these kids know more about rappers' life. Nothing against rap music, I like it, but they know more about that than their own selves, their own culture. Like, this is the truth. The kid's name was, I cannot say the name, but it was on the name of a body part. And he even know that that's what his name had on meaning. I mean, that's kind of sad. I mean, these kids, they have, like, I don't know. So I cannot say much because they're youth, so I gotta watch what I say. But the canoe, ever since the introduction of the canoe, it's been helping. Been taking the kids more, exposing them more to more and more woodwork, which we can probably say that. My kids won the Hawaii Wood Show like 4 years in a row already.
Congratulations.
And that's statewide, private school, Punoho, everything. We beat them all. And that's super cool. So that's what the canoe went open up. Because before that, I never did do the wood show. And then from there, the kids got to see more and more and more. And then I get like Uncle Billy Richards, Uncle Tay Perry, Jay, Dowsett, and all that. How the thing I started is the facility built one in 1983, I think it was. And it got used. It's a funny story. Uncle know the story. So they built a couple, and then they took a group of, I guess you can call them trustees, and they went paddling out. And all of a sudden, they seen a canoe go around the point. They're like, okay, right on. And then they wait. Hey, where these guys stay? They go. Look, the canoe stay beach. They all in the skate. All way around. So much for being trustees, you know what I mean? But, yeah, anyway, so the warden at the time, we had one canoe that was sitting there, 39 or 40 years, yeah, uncle, sitting on the ground. And he approached me, hey, can you fix this or what? And I said some not rated G words. I basically told him, F you, I ain't doing nothing, you like one fall guy, I'm not going to be the guy. And then called Uncle Billy Richards. Then he came talk to me. And when you talk to Uncle Billy, yes, there's no such thing as no. So we ended up fixing that, but we started to fix them, so we were about halfway. But the cool thing is, we try to lift them. Every time we lift them, the thing fell apart. Because it was 39, almost 40 years, was on the ground, like rotten, termite. You keep like patty cake right through the hall. Was just destroyed, and then Uncle Dem did everything. We got them back. Got to meet Uncle Tay Perry. It's about 6 years ago. So I've been doing wood, like you said, 30 years. But almost everything except one canoe. And I still never like it. Uncle Billy, come with me. I'm going to meet Uncle Tay Perry. And ever since that day, I've been stuck with that crazy man. Every weekend I see him. I love the guy. I mean, the story was at Wanata Festival, how it became his almana. That was the most, I was tickled like a little kid. So up until that, this is about 4 years ago, I think. Somewhere it was anyway, a couple years. It was our own thing, and I was talking. He was talking to me. Anywhere we go, oh, this is Ryan. Oh, this is my friend. And one day we was at this event, he was talking story, and I don't like say much. Well, something would happen. And Uncle Tay came from behind. Because he would never know where I was. Uncle Peter told me, he's still over there. So he came from behind, and he was like, he said, hey, it's my home, man. I said, oh, Uncle Peter, what? You call me home, man? I started crying. I was so teary. Like, oh, I don't know, man. I'm like, wow. It was like the most exciting feeling ever, you know what I mean? And then I've been stuck with that crazy guy, and having fun ever since. And I just transfer what I learned from there and try to put them into the kids, you know what I mean? But, we like what I did say about it, we really, really need to help. Because these kids nowadays is bad. What do we, I mean? The only reason why you guys don't hear about them is because they're juveniles, so it's not going to be on the news. You know what I mean? So, but these kids, they're suffering. And, I get guys like Uncle Billy, always come see the kids, telling me stories about, all the okulea and all that. And then I got to do so much stuff. And then in 2023, I got to go to the Smithsonian, do some work, and I seen I seen that actual canoe, and Uncle told me that story.
Had the
So
family
you
inside.
yeah. So that was super cool to see Queen Kapiolani's canoe. I mean, if you ever get a chance to see that thing, like, get lashing to patch cracks, like, it's amazing. It's sad that it's not here, but they're taking care of it. And it won't split the fall off. They'll get a Ziploc bag, put it in the Ziploc, label it, and put it in a canoe. So I got to see the paddle over there, so that was pretty cool. And hopefully, you know, with like programs like this, unfortunately I cannot take my kids out too much. But no, for real. That's what we try to do. We try to expose them because, like, I don't mean for talk about it, but like, are you talking zero social skills? Like, I looking at the crowd, everybody over here, it's automatic. You see somebody older, uncle. Like, these monkeys, some of them calling me by my first name. And now I get camera, so now I have to be nice. You know what I mean? I was there and never have camera, and you learn, you know, like Red Bull give you wings. Uncle Ryan give you wings before, but now Uncle Ryan can't get video camera now. I just joking. No, but the kids, bro, we really, take care of you guys' kids, bro. I mean, the things, I don't like to say it, but like the things I see, that you cannot even imagine. Some of these kids, Hawaiian kids, you know what I mean? And we like to pride ourselves, no Hawaiian, no aloha. But you know what, bro, these kids, like, you can't even, I don't even see this in movies yet. Some of the things I've seen these kids go through, like, it's bad. It's really bad. We really need to pay attention to our kids. I mean, Hawaiians dying like crazy that you wouldn't believe in. For these kids know more about another culture than our own. Like, come on, bro. We failing, not them. You know, we failing. And we need more of these guys, you know, making programs. Yeah, it's this. Yeah.
Thank you. A lot of you have talked about, you know, carving the canoe, but then also the restoration. So much of you seem to be involved in restoration projects for existing canoes and the work with the kids. I'm wondering if you folks want to share, you know, about some of the other canoes or projects that you folks have worked on, or, you know, how you see the, you know, engaging with youth, and, you know, what role we can all play in that, if there is a role we can play.
Well, the restoration, maintenance of these canoes, you know, it's not every day that one's getting built from a log. We don't get logs off the mountain that often. And one of the things that I've seen over the years is people failed to maintain and take care of the equipment. And then they put it on the side, and then they want a new canoe. They want to get a log and build a new canoe. But what about that canoe that's sitting there on the side? It's perfectly okay. Just needs some love, right? You know, my brother talked a little bit about the canoes, and you know, they're living things. They have feelings. Like he talked about the canoe in DC being happy once the paddle got there. We've done a few restoration projects. Most of our stuff currently is repairs and maintenance on the existing racing canoes, so we can keep the clubs functioning. And where we can, we squeeze in restoration of other canoes as time permits, because it is a lot of work. It's a commitment, and you know, we constantly get people saying they want to learn how to build a canoe or work on a canoe or maintain, but people don't realize the commitment to spending the time to learn the craft, right? For me, I was fortunate. I grew up with it, so it became like second nature almost. I mean, canoes for me is 7 days a week. You know, whether I'm working on it, I'm communicating with somebody about repairs, or, you know, communicating with my brother. He has an idea. Hey, will this work? What do you think about this? You know, it's 7 days a week for me, and I'm sure it's the same for him too. And I'm sure Uncle Bobby can attest to that too. But you live this thing, right, with the canoes, and maintenance, restoration is huge. We got to take care of what we have, right? The more we use them, the more maintenance they need. Wooden vessels, whether it's out of albizia, koa, we've done them out of mango, the gunpowder tree. Any wooden vessel takes a ton of maintenance and aloha on those canoes.
So to touch on what my brother said, like the Hawaiians just used any tree big enough for a canoe. And most of our canoes were smaller than the 6-mans. So I love every canoe. But to touch on what he said was, what I see is a lot of people like the canoe do what is good for them instead of what is good for the canoe. So the canoe not doing what you like you said, you put them on the side. To me, it's like, why are we going to make more kids when we're not taking care of the kids we get? You know? So, like, if the canoe, no more wrong canoe. Every canoe gets its purpose. So if not working for you for what you like to work, God, get Hawaiian emerging schools. Let the kids teach them how to learn that. You know? Each canoe gets its purpose. Maybe not what you like them for. So planning people, they modify the canoe from its original purpose, and then a lot of structural integrity go down and more maintenance. So I go and I help canoes, and then when the club gets involved, you see the love come back for the canoe. And like you said, the canoe change. Because when you work on them, it's an exchange of energy between you and the canoe. And our job is not only for choir, it's for keep these canoes alive for generations to come. Our job is to help them transition from Laka to Kānaka. And now they all belong to Kānaka.
One of the coolest things is the connection. Like, you know, this has been happening a lot lately. Like, when we're working on, say, like, you need Kopio line, and you start to realize, like, you're sanding something. You're not just sanding. You start smelling them. You think that's the same exact wood, that's the same smell that guy went smell 100-something years ago. And you just can connect. And you're touching the same wood, you know, the same. The thing is crazy, but the thing is, I mean, I'm not that type of person, but no, I mean, but the thing just hits you, you know what I mean? Yeah, the thing just like, whoa, what the hell is that? Like, wow. It's a weird feeling, and I know I said this before, like, exactly what you said. When you work on the older kahiko vaas like that, you gotta remove yourself. All your ego, all your pride gone. It's not what you like. It's what the canoe like, not you. You have no say. You know what I mean? Well, at least we make the canoe this way, and I gotta fix them. I gotta make them this way. Yeah. I mean, and saying, you know, it's like one language that don't need to be spoken. You know what I mean? It's one piece of wood. I mean, that's the coolest thing. Like, yeah, you just if you cannot handle removing yourself and swallowing your pride.
For me, the wood is only 10%. The spirit is 90 of the canoe.
Tell you the truth, man. I mean, like I say, you can't swear every other word. They come on a canoe, not even one. That's the coolest part. The kind of thing just, you just have to do it. Yeah. The thing just is weird. It's super cool, but it's something you gotta experience. Just come and sand. Like Uncle always tells us, the more people touch, the more mana that bugger get. You know what I mean? So it's, for me, it's pretty cool.
I think for us, I haven't had the opportunity to work on really old canoes, but I have had the opportunity to keep canoes going alive. And one thing that was taught to us, and a lesson that I reflect on all the time as the metaphor of the canoe, if you can take care of a canoe really well, it shows how well your community is, how healthy your community is. And remembering where those canoes come from is really, really important too. And so I was blessed to get to carve 2 Micronesian-style canoes from Albizia with Kaapea over there. And that was with Mao's son, Placido, who is a master carver too. And he ended up naming the canoes as a way for us to remember. And one of the names of the canoes is Elen Yoreni, which in their language translates to the pathway to culture. And out of the same tree, he carved 2 canoes from the same tree, and we couldn't that it was quite magical. And if you've ever get a chance to be around the carving of a canoe, it's absolutely magic. And especially hearing the stories of Mauloa. And then the second canoe was born from that same log, and he named that canoe Chichemini Iorani, to remember your culture. And remembering your culture and knowing your culture is the canoe and is the pathway. The pathway of the canoe is how you remember your culture. And so we try and pass that on. If you can remember your culture, then you have some connection to a canoe. And it goes both ways. And so, like all of these guys said, canoes need many hands. And so canoes bring community together. It doesn't spread communities apart. That it makes islands a lot closer together than what we realize. And for us, having the kids get a chance to not only take care of the canoes that they just sailed, they just paddled, they just surfed, it just brings more people together. And kind of like what Ryan was saying, you see the change, and it doesn't matter if you're 80 years old, 85 years old, or 5 years old. The feeling is the same. And getting to experience and share the magic of Waʻa with our community, for us is how Kalai Waʻa can help heal and strengthen communities. So if you're lucky enough to have canoes being born within your community, wow, you have a really healthy, vibrant community. And so I'm just grateful for all these guys and getting to build Pilina with these guys. And I think that's what it's all about, is continuing the Pilina and learning how to care for. It's something that our next generation, everything is so fast that the ability to malama is being forgotten. And how do we care for each other? If we can care for a canoe, we start to treat each other a little bit different.
Thank you. I want to open it up to the folks here. There's a question already.
Yes, so your work is amazing and really commendable. I just wanted to ask, what age groups do you find are most interested, and do you find both the boys and girls interested in this? And just comment on the youth that you get involved with.
They have no choice. If I tell you you're working on a canoe, you're working on a canoe. Nah, just joking, but the ages. I gotta watch what I say. It's like, usually I think the more interested would be around the 15, 16-year-old. Right there is about the perfect, they just transitioning from that hormone freak out, and then now they're kind of getting stable. And then before that, the 12, like, oh, it's just so hard. They just complain the whole time. And the girls do the same thing as the boys. I treat them all equal, saying, you carry the router, you can carry the router. You got to draw the knife, you draw the knife. No pity. So the girls get the same treatment as the boys. They carry the same thing the boys carry. No, it's sad, but in that world, you got to be like that. You draw the line, that's it. You like do them, you cannot do them, beat it. No, I'm not trying to be funny. When you're ready, then you can come back. Guys quit, you quit, okay, beat it. Oh, they come back, no, beat it. You cannot just keep catering, quit, come back, quit. No, I got to teach. In that environment, the line is here, you're in, you're out. No one can stand both sides. So that's kind of how I run it. But then I kind of let them suffer a little while, then bring them back. And you the boys that quit and then come back the second time, you can see the difference. Like they know, oh, now I'm behind. Now that guy, he better than me now. He can, and then that interest start going right there. So it works. You know what I mean? It's brutal, but it works.
Yeah, I gotta agree. About 15, 16, that's when we had some of our best kids that showed interest, and till today, when we need them for the extra hand working on some of these projects, that's the ones that would step up, and they're really into it, right? So, like in my case, my son, he just turned 20, and as we were growing up, I didn't want to push him and burn him out, because some parents, baseball, whatever they're into, right? They force the kids, and then they get turned off. They get that sour taste in their mouth. So I never did that for my son. I just involved him when he felt like it. And now he's at the stage where he's helping me. Dad, are we gonna work on a canoe today? I said, okay, let's go put in some patches today. Let's go get this canoe done so we can get him back to Uncle Clint, so Uncle Clint can get his canoe back in the water racing or what have you. So, it's trying not to burn them out because it's a big responsibility, and we want them to want to do it, and that's the ones you select and you start encouraging them more and teaching them more. So, yeah, it'll come at different ages, but generally, I'd say the 15, 16 range is when we start seeing that kind of stuff.
For us, we start a little bit. Hopefully, what we're doing helps them out by the time they get 15, 16. And also for us, we live in Kalihi, the largest housing complex right here in Kalihi. We get all kinds of kids from all over the Pacific that come from canoe culture. And so for us, if we can start them as young as can, our program, we start at 5 years old. That doesn't mean you're getting the ko'i at 5 years old. That means you being introduced to these things, and hopefully what a 5-year-old can do is a lot. And if they're introduced to that, kind of similar to these guys, that by the time they get to our age, they'll have so much more under their more experience. So we start really young, but building based off of where they're at. They might be stuck at standing for a couple of years and not everybody becomes a canoe carver, but at least they get exposed to it. And also, canoe carving, you get hungry. Sometimes you get hurt. So having community that can support that understand that, whether they did it for a little while, I was like, oh, that's not me, but I still want to be a part of it. I think that there's a part for everybody, and I think that's what we're all trying to say. And hopefully, our work in Kalihi will help Ryan's work in Olomana and Alika and Doug and Uncle Bobby. That we're all in the same canoe. I feel like on different islands. Yeah, we like start them young.
Please join me in. Oh, one more question. Okay, go ahead.
On average, 10 feet a year.
In Kalihi, it's about 15 to 17
feet.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not comparing sizes, eh, over here.
No.
Size no matter. Size no matter. Size no matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
I think
the sway of the branches.
There's another question here too. Yes.
No, they go faster.
The Olona one, eh?
Probably the
Olona, I think you're talking about. The Aura, Kuikapiolani's one.
She's saying the one that was here. She wrote
What's
in
stitching?
She's saying it.
Oh, the ribbing. I think it's some Cuban mahogany. Yeah, mahogany staples. More like a.
Then staple them in, eh?
Then stapled.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, mahogany strips. Yeah. The staples is space age polymer aluminum conduit. Nah, just joking. The staples. I made that up too fast. Yeah, and I guess that was done before. It's more like a reinforcement thing because some parts of the hull is like thin. It's 120 something years old. So I know one of the parts when I grafted on the side, I had to go like 1/16 so I don't touch that. When you router start throwing sparks, you hit the staple. And then just stop. Yeah, that's more like a reinforcement thing. And I forget the name. What is that glue that old one?
Resasano,
I think is the. Yeah,
you mix them with water.
Oh.
There's a canoe by Duke's, White Beach, in that big open area in the hotel. And one of the first times I was walking through there, that canoe called me. And I went over and I'm looking at the rope and I'm like, no, but all I could hear her say was, look in the water. I don't want to be in
That's one of the, on the serious note, there's Uncle Billy like, always preaches that to us, that, you know, and when we have canoes that's leased out, I think that's one of the main concerns. They need they gotta wet their gills. What did the canoe call you? I think that was Uncle Tay calling you, I think.
I think there's one more question.
But yeah, that's one of the hopes. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Uncle Billy, one of the new stipulations too now is, if it's on display, we need to, the stipulation is that canoe once a year, every 6 months needs to go back in the ocean. Yeah. I think that's why this one is so cool, and hopefully, with Battle we can hopefully one day, Kapiolani come back.
Hard was a gift, huh?
Yeah.
Our queen gave him so hard for
that's
us.
That's hard,
to go back.
Maybe temporary or something.
There's one more question, I think, in the audience.
I don't want to ask a question. I want to tell you, each and every one of you, mahalo for helping our people. Because as you use it as a tool to help our lahui, we don't take care of our kids, we won't have it out. And I want to thank each and every one of you because this is another leg of helping our kids. And it's very disturbing to hear about how Native Kānaka is. The deal is they have
nothing.
And I get it. We from Kona and we use tula, what you guys do. And it's a foundation. And if it's canoe, if it's Waʻa, if it's tula, if it's anything, give them something. So it's an identity to people who they are.
Yeah, they're missing. And we service the entire state, so it's not only Honolulu kids getting locked up. We're talking Molokai, Kauai, Kona, Hilo. We're the only facility, so yeah, the whole state. Yeah, we gotta do it as well.
I want to thank you for what you said, because I'm always good. The canoe is busted, let's fix it. Get it done quick. Never thinking that there's a story behind it. There's a path of life that somebody needs to be ripped it up, the out, so it brings it to life. Instead of just, I'm getting to fix it, get it back in the water. Instead of, that is good.
The wood is the easy part for fix. Fixing the spirit is hard. Yeah.
Let's give a final round of applause for our speakers today. Thank you so much for sharing your mana'o with everyone.
Pleasure.
I mean.
Yeah.